my channel. I'm Rudy Elizabeth, and I'm going to be spilling the tea on my internships as a pharmacy student. If you're new to my channel, please feel free to like and subscribe below. I post cool content about being in grad school, having curly hair, and all these other random things that happen during life. So first, let me go ahead and clarify. So when I say internships, I mean as working as a pharmacy student intern in a pharmacy. So there is actual internships that you can have like over the summer or during Christmas break. But what I mean is like my position as a pharmacy intern. So I personally call that my internship, but in reality it is my job. I'm going to be spilling the tea on my 3 internships, aka jobs, that I've had from before pharmacy school till now. First up is my community pharmacy internship. So I obtained this internship the May before I started pharmacy school, which was in August. And honestly, because I had worked in the emergency room before and I had different medical experiences, I wanted to have a true pharmacy experience before starting school, just in case. If you watch my previous video about interning or not interning in pharmacy school, you will see that it doesn't matter whether or not you start before school or in school, anything. It just depends on the student. I just happened to want some experience before I started, so that's why I started looking for things. And so I had been told that you're gonna get your intern license once you start school. If you want, you can go ahead and get your tech license. So I did have my tech license. I went ahead and got that before I started applying to tech and intern positions because I figured I want that if I got an interview. So I just kind of like applied to places around where I knew my school was going to be. So I didn't necessarily want to apply to my hometown because my school is about 50 minutes away, and I wanted to apply to places near my school because I wanted to possibly work a few hours during school, especially if they allowed it. So I applied to like 10, 15 different ones, and finally one called me and set up an interview, and then I was hired. Pacific Pharmacy was part of a large grocery chain that it's very common in Georgia and in the South. So my duties at this specific community pharmacy was really like truly tech duties. Keep in mind, I was hired as a tech for several months, and then once school started, I did get a raise and I was considered an intern. I could do more, and then I changed from our smock to a white coat from school. So I would say that most of my duties included just data entry, filling, refilling, answering phone calls, pulling drugs, shelf maintenance, and checking people out. I counseled every now and then, typically for OTC meds, because we are inside of a big grocery store. We had a very large OTC section, as well as counseling on things like new scripts, but not necessarily super fun stuff, just like antibiotics, So that was mainly what I did. I loved my staff. I just wasn't happy, if that makes sense. And it's not like I hated my job, because I really didn't. My staff definitely made me love my job, and I love patient interaction, but there was something that was missing for me. That's not saying that there's other people who absolutely love community, and I know several people who love community. Like, community is definitely overlooked, and they're definitely underpaid for what they go through. There was instances where, at my community pharmacy, their cops were called from aggressive patients, very not nice people, but that's going to be everywhere, honestly. That's definitely not the reason why I left. I learned a lot in terms of community, in terms of a lot of like therapeutic kind of things. But as I progressed in pharmacy school and I was like, taking PK and all that stuff, I knew for sure I wanted to go kind of a clinical route. And that was very apparent to me after having worked in the community setting for several months before school. With this specific pharmacy, I had to work a minimum of 8 hours a week, which I typically did was like on a Wednesday, but I didn't have sim lab. So every other Wednesday I had sim lab, and that meant that from 1 to 5 I'd be in a lab, but that was every other Wednesday. So the Wednesdays where I did not have sim lab, I would go into the pharmacy from like 2 to, I think I used to do like 3 to 9 or like 3 to 8, one of those. And then I would always work on Sundays. And it was perfect for me because it was a midweek break. And then on Sundays, we're only open from 11 to 6, which goes by really fast. And it's very chill on Sundays. So this worked perfectly for me at the time. And I had no problem with working the minimum of 8 hours, because by the time I did like the every other Wednesday or on Sunday, I typically would have about 8 hours. And I mean, even if I had 6, they weren't mad. It wasn't horrible. But that was nice. There are some students who I know that like, that was a lot for them. But at the same time, it's all about your time management and obviously having bosses that will work with you and understand your schedule. So I currently do not work at this pharmacy anymore. It was a kind of like COVID-19 / scheduling thing that kind of happened, and where I was let go. There's no hard feelings whatsoever. Like I mentioned earlier, my pharmacy is about 50 minutes from my hometown. So when COVID hit and I was forced to go back home, I obviously had to give away a few shifts. I could work every now and then, but because school was online and stuff, there was just like a lot more things that I had to juggle. And so I did have to give a few shifts away, and eventually it was more like I just wasn't scheduled for a little bit. Oh, I also forgot to mention that other duties included, because I was an intern, or once I became an intern, I was able to take scripts from doctor's offices, etc. I didn't get to answer a few clinical questions, but not as much as I do now at my current clinic, which I'll talk about later. Yes, a community pharmacy will always have a piece of my heart because that's where I started, and that's where I met some amazing pharmacists and amazing staff members. I just don't necessarily plan on going that route, but I know plenty of people who will, and I know there are going to be some amazing community pharmacists out there, and there currently is some amazing community pharmacists out there. So please do not stray away from community pharmacy just because of one opinion, okay? Next is my PRN inpatient hospital internship. So by the time I obtained my PRN inpatient hospital position, it was the middle of the semester of my P1 year, and I had talked to a few upperclassmen who mentioned they held PRN positions and that they loved it because it wasn't necessarily you're required to work 8 hours this week and you're required to do this and this. The requirement was every other weekend or every 2 weekends, and I was like, yeah. And so this really appeased me because I knew for sure, just from like the different mentors I've had and from people that would come and talk to us in school, that if you want to go residency or you do want a clinical route, it's good to get some kind of experience early on so that you know exactly what you're getting into. When I was applying, I applied to hospitals that were local to my school. This applied obviously to my community pharmacy as well because I wanted to be able to not have to drive like super far if it was near my home, etc. So I got an interview in October, and then late November I was offered the position, and then I started training over Christmas break, which was perfect because I got like my 3 weeks of training out the way, and I was able to start fresh when school started, and plus that December paycheck was nice. I do get paid more in the hospital setting, which was nice, and also I've learned a lot. I won't say that I'm like officially a clinical pharmacist or anything, but I definitely learned a lot more than I did in the community setting, and that's not saying that the community setting is dumb. Like, that's just saying that I have more examples or more cases to look at and ask questions about versus in my community setting. So my typical schedule before COVID hit was every other weekend, which was perfectly fine because the weekends that I did have off were spent studying and hanging out with my friends. And then the weekends that I did work, I also did study because I was able to bring my notes with me. I printed them out, and I would have my study guide with me because every now and then there's like 2 to 3 hours of downtime based on the load on the weekends. So basically my duties range from 3 jobs. So we have our runner, floor stock, and then IV room. Time-wise, we get there around 7 and we leave at 3:30 if you're morning shift, what most of us students / interns are. So with those 3 positions, obviously IV is self-explanatory. You're in the IV room, batching IVs. I don't know what else to say about that. Second is floor stock. So floor stock just means first floor. On floor stock, you take care of the NICU, mother-baby unit, labor and delivery, OR, so we have several ORs, so you take care of the entire OR. You take care of like post-op, pre-op, our block room, and the emergency room. And then every now and then we have to go to rehab or the rehabilitation center, not drug addiction, but like rehabilitation after surgeries and etc. So on this position, what we do is we refill all the automatic dispensing machines. So there are stock outs and then of course requests. So stock outs are like this specific machine is out of amoxicillin 500. So we bring that, batch it, and we plug it in and we refill these machines. Typically this takes about 20-30 minutes because it's not just one stock out, it's about 15-20 of them. We go through that, we take out returns from the automatic dispensing machine, which would typically include controls. We also bring in IVs that are batched for those patients. So if I'm going to rehab, I'm going to bring in the batch for the rehab patients, as well as bringing in the meds for the day. So while we have automatic dispensing machines, not every single med can fit in there, as well as not every single med should fit in there because not everyone will be on furosemide, you know? So if there's 3 patients on furosemide and they're taking it like BID, I'll go ahead and dispense prep each of their meds for the day. So if they're taking it twice a day, obviously I'll bring 2 furosemide for room 220 and 2 furosemide for room 250, and so forth, so on. So we do bring special request meds. So yeah, that's about it. While it sounds like a little, it really is a lot. It does take a lot of time. Yes, there are some downtime when everything is like mid-afternoon. But then the next batch comes out. So Runner does the same exact thing that FloorStock does, except for on the 2nd and 3rd floors, which includes our ICU, med surge, and just like our like post-op kind of thing. I don't know how to explain it. So they do the exact same thing. They refill automatic dispensing machines. They bring up batches. They bring up patient requests for meds, etc. I will note that like when all of us are in the pharmacy, the main pharmacy, you know, we answer the phones. We use Epic, so we are able to, you know, go through a patient's profile when a nurse calls us and, you know, pinpoint exactly what they're asking for, see if it's been verified, see where it is in the machines, because most floors have like 2 or 3 machines, so like they might ask like, is it in this machine or is this machine, etc. Runner also services dialysis on the weekends. So yeah, I would say in the hospital setting, I'm definitely feel as like an intern. I do get to ask a lot of questions, mainly because we do have residents here, and that is, I love that, because you typically are residents. I think we only have a PGY 1 if I remember correctly. So they have just completed pharmacy school and they are a wealth of knowledge. If you remember correctly, in my intern video, one of my residents gave me a full PK case for my PK final to practice. Like, hello. So I do love that. I love asking questions, and depending on the weekend, the pharmacist that I'm with, you know, they'll be like, hey, what about this or this? And like, they love bouncing things off of you. I believe we have 2 ER pharmacists, we have 3 onco pharmacists, I think we have a cardio pharmacist, and then of course normal staff pharmacists. There's several other ones. I just haven't met everyone because not everyone is on the weekends. But yes, I definitely feel like an intern, mainly because I get to use an EMR. At the community pharmacy, I don't use an EMR. So yes, I have a patient's profile, but it's only their meds. Meanwhile, at the hospital, I have their meds, I have their labs, I have etc. I have a lot of things that helps with the pharmacist in making clinical decisions. And then if I have a question, like if I'm pulling something and I'm like, what is this used for? The pharmacist or the resident will like walk through why they're using this, and this is their labs, and they're doing this, and they're doing this, and they're doing this, and he's on this, but he's allergic to this. And there's like a lot of different things that we can think of. There's a lot of different things that we can utilize in the EMR that helps with the clinical decision making, and that's really cool. I also love being able to page the providers to get clarification or to like answer their questions. So in the community setting, there's a lot of times where I would sit on hold for 45 minutes just to be like, hey, this person's allergic, can I change this, you know, etc. Meanwhile, in the hospital setting, I could just, you know, dial the operator and tell them to call so and so and so to our extension and tell them, hey, so and so's allergic to this, you can't order this, or this dosing is incorrect, this is this, and you know, it's typically fixed in a matter of 3 minutes. So that's also amazing. Also, I love the networking I've made while in the hospital because we have so many different pharmacists. We also have a few PRN pharmacists, so I've met a lot of different people who only work PRN at the hospital, and then during the week they are like at the VA or they work and care. So it's really cool getting to see everyone's background and see what they're interested in and what they did. Schedule wise right now, I do still work here, but I do not go in every other weekend anymore. With COVID, I go in about In the beginning, it was like every 2 weeks, and now right now it's once a month. We might be picking up soon once it gets back to September, but it hasn't been that huge of a deal to me because I currently am working in a clinic. Last but not least is my clinic internship. So I currently work with an organization / clinic that specializes in the care of patients with HIV, people on PrEP or PEP, and any other sexually transmitted disease that comes along with it. Obviously, this is not like a normal internship that you just like find on LinkedIn. This internship actually kind of fell in my lap. So I actually volunteered with this organization during my fall semester of P1 year. I volunteered with them at the Atlanta Pride Festival, and I absolutely had so much fun. I had been interested in HIV for some time, and I actually did a little bit of research in undergrad, and so like when the opportunity arose to like volunteer with them through one of our student organizations, I was like, yeah. And so like I had so much fun, and not just like, you know, the activities we were doing, but just like, you know, connecting with the patients, connecting with future patients, and like teaching them about PrEP and stuff. And I was like, this was so much fun, like I loved it. And so I actually signed up on their newsletter to just like stay in touch with the organization, as well as volunteer outside of school on my own. And so then when COVID hit, I had gotten one of the newsletters, and they said that they were rolling out a curbside service pharmacy model. And I was like, hey, do you need help? In my head, I figured that they would just need someone that can just like, you know, fill the meds and run them out and etc. while everyone else does everything else. And that was my intention. So I emailed saying, hey, so-and-so, I saw that you're doing a curbside model pharmacy, and I just wanted to reach out and see if you needed help. You know, I was forced to go home due to COVID from school, and I'm currently online, and etc. So if you need help, just reach out. I am an intern, here's my license, etc. And so because I responded to the newsletter, I really didn't think anyone got it. And then like a week later, I got an email from the director of pharmacy, and they were like, yes, we can offer you this, and when can we start? And I was like, oh, okay. And so I have loved every single moment since then. Like, my God, it's like exactly what was missing for me in community and hospital, all wrapped up into one. So the pharmacy is technically a community pharmacy, but also specialty, but also it feels like AmCare. So it literally encompasses everything that I thought I was missing in the hospital or in community, and it batches it into one, and I'm just like infatuated. So rundown is, it's a community pharmacy that's like specialty, because we focus on a lot of HIV meds or PrEP and PEP, but we still fill everything else. So if you have hypertension and HIV, we still fill your hypertension meds. We still fill, we fill everything. We have antibiotics. We do have vaccinations, but mainly for like in-clinic administration for like certain treatments. And I just love it. I love it. So because we are inside of a clinic, we do have access to our providers all the time. It's an EMR called Cerner, and I send and communicate to them like, hey, so-and-so is running out of this. Can you send over a script right fast? And like, if this is still appropriate in therapy and they're still on it, where would you like to go from here? So that's really nice, because I feel like an actual, like, it makes me feel like a baby pharmacist, honestly, because while yes, I might have to ask for a refill, or I might have to ask why a patient's on there, I'm also able to go through the chart and be like, okay, why are they on this again? And then I see in the clinical decision making, so-and-so had a cough, that's where they're on an antitussive, etc. Things like that. Or CD4 count was elevated, that's where they're on this. Things like that. As well as I've learned a lot in terms of just HIV in general, as well as in PrEP and PEP and Hep B. So this has been like one of the most eye-opening experiences, because like I have loved, it's so amazing. I don't know how to explain it. I'm just like so happy here. At the clinic, I do 10 times more than what I do in the hospital and in the community setting, because I, obviously with COVID going on, a lot of our patients can't come in. So I do a lot of phone calls out to my patients to make sure they're doing good on meds. And if they do need their meds, can I deliver them via courier, or can I deliver them if they're further via UPS? Setting up, making sure they're coming in for appointments, because with a lot of HIV meds, we can't necessarily just keep, refilling. We need to do labs to make sure that, you're undetectable, your CD4 count isn't insane, etc. And so there's a lot of making sure that they're coming in. And another really cool thing is there's a lot of enrolling them in patient assistance funds. So I don't know if you guys know this, but a lot of meds in the HIV, PrEP, and PEP world are like thousands of dollars. And I'm not talking like thousands. So there's a lot of funding, especially in the state of Georgia. There's a lot of programs like ADAP or HICP, and then there's also programs through the actual manufacturers like Gilead or ViiV or Johnson & Johnson, where these patients can be enrolled in assistance funds that help them get their medications at a low cost or even free for up to a year. They just keep enrolling year after year after year. And this brings me so much joy. Like, yes, it's so tedious and it takes a long time, but in the end, it brings me so much joy when you're able to get this patient their medication for free and they're like, oh, what? I don't need anything? And I'm like, yes. So that's amazing. As well as just like connecting with patients is amazing. So in the beginning, I knew that I would have, you know, those moments, but I have them 10 times more than I did in the community setting and in the hospital setting, because I get to connect with patients that are my age and they're like, I don't know what to tell my parents, or I don't want to tell my mom I'm PrEP or PEP. And so like I like counseling them and talking to them and being like, hey, it's okay, like we're gonna get through this, etc. We can do this, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this, and just like seeing them come out of their shell and they're just like, okay, yeah. And then just like, you know, hearing them on the phone, like, Rudy, I did this. I'm like, oh my God, what? So it's great just making like a bond with these patients. I've been there for about 4 months now, and like there's like already patients that like are like, Rudy, hey, you know, so that's amazing. Especially over the phone versus seeing them in person. I do a lot of the delivering, so I do a lot of the taking it out to the patients. So when they arrive at our pharmacy or our clinic, if they're just picking up, we have a curbside pickup section where they just park at a designated area, they call our number and they tell us who's here and they bring it out to them, which is really convenient for a lot of patients that can't come in because a lot of our patients are immunocompromised. While I'm not only learning from my amazing pharmacists, I also get to learn from our amazing providers at the clinic. So we have infectious diseases physicians, as well as PAs and NPs, all who are willing to like teach and, you know, get to know me and ask me questions and stuff. And especially my pharmacist, who's like is such an amazing mentor. In the beginning, yes, it was like a lot of teaching me what am I doing here. While I already had some pharmaceutical knowledge, obviously I don't know everything about HIV. Like I knew like 3 things. So I've learned a lot, as well as now I get to answer a lot of clinical questions. So they might call and like, well, they ask for my pharmacist, he'll be like, I think Rudy can help you. And so, you know, I pull up Micromedics and I ask them, you know, what are they asking for? This was this. I was able to run an interaction checker for this 88-year-old lady a few days ago, and it was so much fun. She was so cute. And I got put on a project for Daraprim. It's really fun. I've loved it a lot because I feel like I'm using a lot of different things that I've learned in school and will be learning soon, especially in regards to medication therapy management. I also love this clinic because like I feel like there's so much room for growth. I'm already doing so much more than what I expected to be doing, but you know, we're thinking of rolling out an MTM program and opening other locations, and so like I just feel like I can really like benefit from, you know, being a startup of an MTM program at our clinic, as well as possibly even like venturing out to the other locations once they open to help other interns. I'm also the first intern at this company, so that's really cool. The first pharmacy intern, so that's really fun. Like they literally created this position for me when I reached out. So my hours are 9 to 5. That recently got changed because one of our staff members had to go to another location of our clinic. So I now come in around 8:30 to 5, which is still not a big deal. And we float between 2 roles, like Tech 1, Tech 2. Tech 1 does like all the calling, you know, medication sync processes, so making sure our patients are synced up, you know, when they're ready for us to send out their meds, if they have new meds, etc. And then the next tech does all the data entry and enrolling into assistance funds for the week. And then collectively we all fill and we package for courier or UPS. I'm also really passionate about this clinic because our CEO is just like so invested in all of our development. So there's a lot of different seminars that they sent to us about HIV education, HIV treatment, etc., about PrEP, about PEP, about Hep C, about a lot of sexually transmitted diseases, which is really fun because as a student, I feel like I don't know about a lot of these except for larger ones. So I knew that there is like the AIDS Summit, which was like April or something like that, but I didn't know about all these smaller ones hosted by local organizations or like smaller organizations. So that's been really fun to, you know, weed out what I'm interested in, like sitting through and listening to, and you know, the things that they talk about and the different realms of the HIV world. So I hope to stay on at this organization, and we've been talking about me staying on because like as their first intern, and they notice how much I'm allowed to do, especially like, you know, when people call in scripts, they don't have to stop and be like, hey, so-and-so, can you take this? I'm actually able to take it. I'm like, oh yeah, I can actually take it. So there's like so much that has opened their eyes about having an intern, and I absolutely love it. So obviously my hours are gonna be changing in a few weeks when school starts, but we're still looking forward to possibly me coming in like a few mornings, etc. That's everything, guys. I hope that this was a very good and informational video for you if you're considering going hospital, community, or clinic route. Obviously each experience is going to be different, and it's obviously up to the student and making it yours, you know, making it what you want it to be. So I really hope that you take this into consideration when applying. Feel free to reach out to, you know, upperclassmen who are working in settings that you're interested in working in, because that's what I did when I started looking in the hospital setting. Like I didn't really know much, but I knew that everyone talked about getting clinical experience early on. So I reached out and I was like, hey, what do you do there? What's the schedule like? So feel free to reach out or even create a position like I did. I really hope this helped, and I really thank you guys for watching. Please feel free to like and subscribe below. Also in the comments, let me know what you do as an internship. Do you work at a nuclear pharmacy or something cooler? Please feel free to let me know below.